If conversations with certain people leave you hollow or shaky, you are not failing at kindness or faith. You are human, and your soul is tired. If you feel emotionally drained after certain people, watch this. I want to offer you a different picture of what rest looks like, not as a quick fix, but as a reorientation. I want to show you how a story told in a stable in over 2,000 years ago can become a practical, tender map for setting limits, finding replenishment, and discovering that you are not alone in the hard work of keeping your heart whole. Before we step into that ancient scene, take a moment to do a small, private thing. Grab a pen or open a note on your phone. Write down the name of one person who tends to drain you, someone who leaves conversations wrung out, who makes your shoulders tighten, who brings a kind of quiet dread. Keep that name private. We will come back to it. The Christmas story, when stripped of tinsel and nativity sets, is made of ordinary human strain. Fear, confusion, social shame, whispered rumors, quiet grief, and the tiny, risky choices of people who said yes when saying yes cost them something. If you have ever felt judged for what you confessed, exhausted by a demand that never sleeps, or so drained you can't tell if you're numb or just surviving, the scenes in that story will feel like mirrors. They are not metaphors that excuse abusive behavior, nor are they a recipe that guarantees tidy outcomes. They are, instead, a set of small, holy gestures, courageous mercy, careful boundaries, and the bold presence of God with fragile people that teach us how to move from being drained toward being rested. Imagine Mary in the weeks after the angel's visit. Picture the evening air, the dust of the road clinging to her sandals, the smell of wood smoke, and the nervous hush inside a modest house where gossip could travel faster than a caring hand. The angel's words, whatever words history has left us, came into a life already lived within a web of family expectation and social watchfulness. Mary's yes was not a simple private affirmation, it was a public risk. To say yes was to open herself to conjecture, to be suspected, to have neighbors tilt their heads in ways that cut. Think of what that does to a person. Shame is heavy and quiet. It is the pressure that makes you tuck parts of yourself away, the second-guessing that follows any honest confession. When someone in your life reacts with judgment, or when a leader weaponizes concern into control, your heart begins to brace. Your conversations change. You become economical with truth. You learn to protect what few vulnerabilities you still have. Mary stands there, trembling perhaps, but also choosing. That choice is not the end of her fear. It is the beginning of a way forward. If you recognize something of yourself in Mary's hesitation, know this is not a weakness to be scolded. Shame and social risk are real strains. They wear away at sleep. They make you dread phone calls and avoid family gatherings. They can make you wonder whether honesty is worth the cost. But Mary's model offers a different posture, vulnerability held with discernment. Her yes was costly because she saw that the risk of silence could be worse than exposure. She did not broadcast recklessly. She listened, she breathed, and she committed. How does that translate for your life? Start with naming the drain. That simple step you just took with your pen is not a small ritual. It is a boundary of the first order. Naming clarifies where your energy is leaking. From that point, you can assess whether speaking is safe, what needs to be shared, and what would be better kept close to trusted friends. Before you disclose a tender thing to someone who has proven unreliable, ask yourself 3 quiet questions. What do I hope will happen if I share this? How likely is it that this person will hold it with care? What is the worst thing they could do with what I tell them? You don't need to be paranoid. You need to be wise. Mary did not act like a martyr seeking acclaim. She acted like someone who weighed risk and chose fidelity to a call bigger than shame. If you decide a conversation is worth having, here are ways to protect tenderness without becoming cold. These are phrases you can use as small bulwarks when someone pushes too far or tries to turn your openness into ammunition. Say, "I want to be honest with you, but I'm not ready to do this right now," or "I need to pause this conversation. I can't engage on this topic at the moment." Indeed, when someone tries to coerce more detail, try, "I'm not comfortable sharing that. I hope you can respect my boundary." If the person is a close family member and the pressure rises, a firmer but still gracious line works. "I love you, and I also need to protect my emotional health. I can't continue when it feels like I'm being judged." Those short sentences are not weapons. They are shelters. They speak truth without escalating conflict. They guard your capacity to love without letting others deplete your reserves. Saying them feels strange at first, maybe even selfish. But remember that protection is not the opposite of compassion. It is the soil out of which compassionate acts can grow sustainably. Let me tell you about one woman named Anna, not because her story is unique, but because it sounds like the lives you may be living. Anna worked on a team where frankness was prized until it served the powerful. She confessed to a colleague that she was struggling, sleep, focus, the weight of caretaking a parent, and instead of receiving care, she was catalogued as weak and passed around as gossip. For weeks she retreated, hypervigilant. Then, inspired by a small phrase she read, "Do not be afraid," she practiced a tiny boundary. At the next lunch, when someone tried to pry, she said, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm not discussing this right now." She kept her circle to 2 trusted friends and a counselor. Over months, her energy returned, not because the workplace changed overnight, but because she stopped refueling the rumor mill. Boundaries, coupled with faithful companions, became the way she learned to rest. That phrase, "do not be afraid," is not a magical incantation that erases pain. In the Nativity, angels use that phrase again and again. There is something like permission in it. Permission to face the fear without letting it dictate the day. Permission to say no to what depletes and yes to what sustains. For Mary, those words were like a lamp in a dark house. They did not remove the scorn, but they reminded her that she did not face it alone. There are spiritual practices that reinforce these boundaries. Practice a 3-phrase breathing anchor. Breathe in, naming one truth. "I am seen." Hold the breath while you recall a supporting scripture or phrase, "Emmanuel, God with us." Then breathe out and say, "I am allowed to rest." Repeat this in moments when your body tenses after an encounter. You can do this silently while waiting at a red light or washing dishes. These are not substitutes for professional care when trauma is involved, but they are concrete acts that help your nervous system learn a new rhythm. If you are considering a disclosure, sharing a vulnerability, asking for a change, telling someone you need space, prepare a short script ahead of time, saying something like, "I need to tell you something important, and I want it to be received with care. If that's not possible, I'll need to step back." Sets a guardrail. It signals that grace can be given, but not at the expense of dignity. You are not asking permission to be mistreated. You are asking for a safe container. There is another arc in the Nativity worth paying attention to. Joseph. Joseph's experience is grief that is mixed with mercy. Imagine him discovering that Mary is with child. The text gives him a private, painful choice, one that by the law and the custom of his day could have resulted in public shame for Mary and severe consequences for him and his family. The hurt he feels is real. Your heart knows that particular ache, the quiet betrayal when someone you trusted breaks an unspoken covenant, the slow sting of a promise left unmet. Joseph did not roar or break the world with public spectacle. Instead, by intention, he planned a quiet dissolution, a way to protect Mary from the worst of the social fallout. There's a kind of righteous fury that wants to punish. There is also a different strength, quieter and harder, that chooses to protect. Joseph's option of a private separation is not an evasion of justice. It is a form of mercy. Mercy is not the same as tolerating abuse, and mercy is not passivity. Mercy is an act of restraint that holds space for the vulnerable to be tended rather than trampled. For you, that might mean refusing to answer the phone at midnight, declining to be an emotional dumping ground, or choosing not to retaliate when news about you is spread with malice. When someone betrays you, the temptation is to make them feel the pain you feel. But Joseph models an alternative. He moves deliberately, not vindictively. If you find yourself poised on the edge of reaction, try Joseph's quiet strategy in a modern key. First, acknowledge your hurt in a private place so it doesn't become your companion in public. Say to someone you trust, "I am wounded by this, and I need time to think." Then decide on a short, reversible action. A week of limited contact, a conversation scheduled with a mediator, or a clear written boundary like, "I cannot discuss family matters over text. If you need to talk, let's agree on a time with a third person present." Those micro-boundaries protect you while preserving the possibility of a future reconciliation if that becomes healthy. Here is a calm script modeled on Joseph's posture that you might use when a relationship has betrayed trust, but you want to respond with dignity rather than reactivity. "I understand there are things we disagree about. I am hurt by what happened. At this time, I'm choosing to step back and not engage in conversations that escalate. If you want to talk later, I'm willing to do so in a way that is respectful and safe for both of us." Note how that language names the wound without demanding a confession. It sets a limit without dehumanizing the other person. It is protection wrapped in restraint. It is important to name when mercy is not appropriate. If a relationship involves ongoing abuse, threats, or patterns of manipulation that put you or your children at risk, restraint and quiet mercy are insufficient safety measures. In those situations, the faithful thing is to seek help, trusted friends, church leaders, mental health professionals, and when necessary, legal protection. Mercy without safety is not mercy at all. It can become a cloak for continued harm. Joseph's quiet plan was possible in his context because it aimed to prevent further public harm to Mary. That nuance matters. If you are in danger, do not hesitate to call a professional. Protecting life and well-being is not unmerciful. Joseph's night visits from an angel are another moment to reflect on how our inner life can be renewed in the face of betrayal. He is visited in dreams, reassured that there is purpose, and that the child's story is a thread in God's larger work. This is not a promise that pain will simply evaporate. It is the offering of presence, assurance that you are not abandoned in your hurt. For those who feel emotionally drained after certain people, hold on to that truth. Presence is a resource. It does not always change external realities immediately, but it changes what sustains you while the work of boundary and healing continues. If you're wondering what that presence looks like practically, start small. Find one person who bears witness to your pain without offering instant solutions. That person can be a friend, a counselor, a pastor, or a support group. Tell them simply, "I need someone who will listen and help me think about next steps." That kind of witness is a sacred remedy against the isolation that relational drain fosters. I want to give you several gentle scripts you can use immediately after a draining interaction, ones that blend what Mary and Joseph teach us. Vulnerability held with wise restraint. If someone leaves you conversation feeling heavy and you want to recenter before responding, say to yourself aloud, "This moment does not define me." Then use one of these lines when you next interact. "I need time to process. I'll respond later." "I'm not able to take that on right now. I'm willing to talk about this, but not in this tone." Or when facing chronic demands, "I can't be available for this the way you ask. I can help in these specific ways instead." There is power in naming what you will do. For example, if a parent insists on cross-examining your decisions, try, "I honor you, but I cannot relive this conversation. Let's agree to stop before it gets hurtful." If a co-worker attempts to use your confession as leverage, respond with, "I'm happy to discuss work tasks, but I won't discuss personal matters at work." If someone in your church tries to congregate gossip around your life, a firm response could be, "I'm asking that our private conversations stay private." If that continues to be a problem, I'll speak with our pastor about healthy boundaries. These scripts are not recipes for guaranteed success. People will sometimes refuse to respect your limits. That is not your failure. It is the reason why the next step, finding safe witnesses and helping hands, is essential. When people ignore your stated boundaries, it is appropriate to escalate. Involve a trusted friend, consult a pastoral leader, or set stronger limits like reduced contact, or, in serious cases, legal measures. The church and community are supposed to be places where safety is honored. If they are not, do not hesitate to seek the protection you need from outside resources. As we move from Mary and Joseph into the wider world of that first Christmas night, you can see how each character models ways of protecting and being tended. Mary's brave, discerning vulnerability, Joseph's restrained protection, and soon the shepherd's story of being overlooked yet affirmed. For now, hold Mary and Joseph as companions who show that faithfulness to God and to your own well-being are not mutually exclusive. They are, in fact, partners in the slow work of healing. Before we continue, I want to give you a short, simple prayer you can use silently or aloud, a tiny petition rooted in the words, "The angels spoke." This is not a promise that pain will vanish instantly, but a sheltering sentence you can carry into your next moment of decision. Address God as you feel comfortable, and allow these words to be a place to rest your tired heart. Lord, you who dwelt among us, be with me in the places that tire me. Help me to speak truth with wisdom and to set limits with love. Remind me that I am not alone when I am afraid. Grant me the courage to protect my heart and the grace to care for others without losing myself. Emmanuel, remain with me. Amen. You can return to that prayer when you feel the sting of another draining conversation. Repeat a short line, "Emmanuel, remain with me," and let it steady you. We have walked through Mary's costly yes and Joseph's quiet mercy. Both scenes offer concrete practices. Name the drain, prepare a script, protect tenderness with wise restraint, and find one trustworthy witness. There is another layer, however, that we will meet next, the marginalized who received the news and how their story rewrites who gets to carry a message. Before we step there, I want to share one more brief modern vignette that ties these patterns together. Consider Marcus, a part-time caregiver and amateur musician who was regularly dismissed at family gatherings. He practiced being open about his limits for years, only to have family members label him as weak and unambitious. He kept saying yes until there was almost nothing left of his own creative life. One morning, after a particularly draining holiday, Marcus took a small, decisive step. He texted a short message to his brother. "I love you. I can't do those holidays the way we used to. I need space to care for myself right now." It was the first boundary he had ever named publicly. The reaction was messy, anger, accusations. But Marcus had already lined up 2 friends who agreed to meet him once a week for coffee and prayer. Over months, as he honored small rhythms of rest, an evening walk, a weekly Sabbath from social media, his energy returned. He returned not because his family became perfect, but because he stopped throwing the last of himself into places that never nourished him. These stories are not about winning. They are about learning to steward a life so you can be present to those you truly love. They are about recognizing that sometimes the bravest, kindest act is to create enough margin to be loving without becoming depleted. Mary's yes cost her, Joseph's mercy protected, and Marcus's boundary reclaimed his dignity. Each of these is a practical stitch in the larger garment of a life made by faith and care. We are only beginning to unpack the practical map the Nativity offers for relational draining. Up ahead, we will meet the shepherds, whose experience as outcasts gives permission to those on the margins to speak and to be heard. We will also gather concrete, step-by-step practices, a roadmap from naming to necessary escalation that help you move from being drained to being rested. For now, hold the name you wrote earlier. Keep this prayer in your pocket, and remember that the first moves toward rest are small, exacting, and courageous. Now imagine the night beyond Joseph's quiet decision, the lowing of animals settling, the last of the stars bright and thin, and out in the fields, men on the margins go about their ordinary, weary labor. They are shepherds, exposed to weather and rumor, overlooked by the important people, often the last to be invited and the first to be suspected. Their work smells of wool and smoke. Their hands know the texture of rope. Their eyes are used to scanning for danger. They speak in shorthand about storms and lambing, not in the language of the synagogue. To the society around them they are small. To God, they are the ones entrusted with the first announcement. The angel's sudden brightness breaks into their night and says what angels always say, "Do not be afraid." Then a chorus of angels pours its voice into their sky, declaring good news of great joy. Notice how this encounter honors the marginalized. The shepherds are not first because of status or polish. They are first because they are present, vulnerable, and ready to receive an unexpected word. That pattern matters for anyone who has been dismissed or drained by people who treat them as invisible. If you feel emotionally spent after certain people, there is a direct line from the shepherds to your life. Being on the margins of a family, a job, a church, creates particular wounds, the sense that your contribution is overlooked, that your pain is less legitimate, that your voice carries no weight. Those wounds exhaust you. They train you to shrink, to avoid claim, to quiet the parts of you that might embarrass others. Yet the shepherd's story flips that script. Their testimony becomes primary. God's good news arrives for those who know what it is to be overlooked and are courageous enough to say, "This matters." What does that teach us? First, dignity matters even when no one affirms it. Your worth does not depend on applause. The practice for someone who has been dismissed is to begin affirming themselves in small, concrete ways. Keep a list of 3 things you did well each day. Name who in your life does notice you, even in tiny ways. Seek or create groups where your presence is welcomed. Volunteer teams, hobby groups, small gatherings where listening is practiced. Marginality can be a place of power when it learns to speak. Second, witness heals. The shepherds ran to see, they told others what happened. When you are drained by people who belittle you, you do not have to carry the story alone. Testimony is not about revenge. It is about reclaiming a narrative. Find 1 or 2 trustworthy people and say, "This is what happened to me," and allow them simply to hear without trying to fix everything. That witness interrupts the isolation that relational drain fosters. Third, presence is the remedy for shame. Shame loves secrecy. When shame is lifted into light by trusted companions, it loses much of its venom. The shepherd's first instinct was to go and see, to show up, to be present for one another and for the newborn. You can model that by showing up for yourself. Go to a coffee with someone who cares for you, attend a meeting where your gifts are recognized, or join a small group where listening is practiced. These are small habits, but they shift how your nervous system learns to anticipate others. Before we move into a practical roadmap, let's stop for a moment and consider 3 key verses that anchor what we are doing. Isaiah 7:14, Micah 5:2, and Luke 2:10-14. These texts help us remember why God's coming is relevant for our relational lives. Isaiah 7:14 promises a sign. The young woman will conceive and bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. Emmanuel, God with us, contains a radical claim. God does not remain aloof from human suffering. That presence reframes loneliness. When certain people have drained you, you are not abandoned to that depletion. Emmanuel's presence does not guarantee immediate repair of every relationship, but it offers a source of sustaining companionship while you take the necessary steps to protect your life. Micah 5.2 roots the child in humble origins. From Bethlehem shall come one who will shepherd. The leader God sends arrives from a place of smallness, not imperial might. That upends the cultural logic that power solves trauma. Instead, it signals that strength can be gentle and that dignity can emerge out of low places. If you've been exhausted by people who equate power with domination, Micah invites you to imagine a different kind of leadership, quiet, protective, and oriented toward care. Luke 2:10-14 is the angelic announcement to the shepherds, "Do not be afraid, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy." The phrase, "do not be afraid," appears repeatedly in this story as a pastoral balm. It gives permission to step out of fear-driven patterns, fear of being shamed, fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, and to make choices that honor both your conscience and your well-being. It is not a command to be fearless in the heroic sense, so much as an invitation to choose actions formed by presence, not panic. Keep those verses close. They are less a theological textbook than a set of lenses for everyday choices. Now, practical roadmap, the step-by-step pathway from feeling drained to finding rest. Each step is concrete and can be practiced. I will give you scripts, small exercises, and case studies so you can try them in real life. Step 1. Name the drain. You already started this, writing down the person who drains you. Naming is different from complaining. It is an act of clarity. Expand that moment into a short inventory. For the person you wrote down, answer these prompts in a private journal. What specifically do they do that leaves me drained? Interruptions, sarcasm, emotional dumping. How do I feel in my body after interacting with them? Tension in neck, shallow breathing, tiredness. What do I fear will happen if I step back? Loss of connection, guilt, others' approval. What would I hope for instead? Respect, mutuality, peaceful exchanges. Write for 10 minutes if you can. This is the data-gathering stage. It removes fog and prepares you for next moves. Step 2. Establish micro-boundaries. Micro-boundaries are small, reversible actions that protect your energy without making permanent decisions. They are rehearsal for healthier patterns. Here are scripts you can use across different contexts. Pick the ones you need and adapt the language so it sounds like you. Family. I love you, but I'm not able to revisit that topic right now. I need to step away from the conversation. Can we talk another time? Work. I'm focusing on this project right now. I'll respond after lunch. I'm not comfortable discussing personal matters at work. Friendships. I can't be your only sounding board for this. I want to help, but I need boundaries so I don't get overwhelmed. I'm available for 2 phone calls a week. If it's more than that, I'll need to refer you to someone else who can help. Romantic relationships. When conversations get heated, I step away to regroup. I'm happy to reconnect in half an hour when we both are calmer. Church community leaders. I'm grateful for your concern. For confidentiality, I'd prefer this stay private. If that's not possible, I'll speak with our pastor. When someone tests a boundary, you can repeat a concise line and add a consequence if needed. I hear you, but I need to stop this conversation. If it continues, I will leave. Step 3. Seek safe witness and accountability. Boundaries are easier to hold when someone else knows what you're doing. Choose 1 or 2 people who have shown steadiness. Ask them simple things. Listen without fixing, check in weekly, and help you evaluate next steps. Here are ways to invite a witness. Would you be willing to meet with me for 30 minutes to help me think through a situation? I just need someone to listen and help me keep my boundary. I'm trying an experiment. I will not respond to certain calls after 9 p.m. Can you help me stay accountable to that? If you're part of a church small group or a counseling program, consider sharing that you need accountability for boundaries. If you feel unsafe, choose professionals, therapists, pastoral counselors, or legal advocates depending on the situation. Step 4. Replenish practical spiritual rhythms. Rest is not passive. It is formed by practices that retrain your heart. Here are rituals you can try for replenishment. Pick a few and do them consistently for a month. Solitude. A weekly window of 2 hours, no devices, no scheduling, where you take a walk, read, or pray. Sabbath-style pause. A day or half-day each week where tasks are limited and replenishing activities prioritized. Scripture anchors. Memorize a short verse that grounds you. Emmanuel, God with us, or do not be afraid. Repeat it when your body tenses. Breath practices. Use the 3-phrase anchor. Breathe in, name a truth, hold, recall scripture, breathe out, claim rest. Creative care. Reclaim a hobby, music, painting, running, that refuels you. Service within limits. Serve in a way that doesn't drain you. A consistent, small commitment rather than sporadic all-or-nothing giving. Step 5. Escalate responsibly when necessary. If someone repeatedly violates your boundaries or if there is abuse, you must escalate. Escalation is not an act of failure. It is an act of protection and courage. Here are steps and scripts for escalation. Document. Keep a record of texts, emails, or incidents that show pattern. This is practical and not vindictive. Involve a trusted mediator. I would like a third person present for this conversation to ensure it is safe and respectful. Involve pastoral leadership. I need help mediating a conflict, or I need confidentiality and wise counsel about next steps. Professional help. Contact a counselor for emotional support and strategy. Legal protection. If threats, stalking, or violence occur, contact local authorities or legal advocates immediately. If you must step away permanently, do so with dignity. You can say, "For my well-being, I am choosing no contact. I wish you well." Enlist a support network to help hold that boundary. Case studies. Putting the roadmap into motion. Case 1. Workplace criticism. Sophia's manager constantly criticized her in team meetings. After naming the drain, step 1, she established a micro-boundary. I prefer feedback in private. I'll schedule a one-on-one. She sought a witness, her mentor, and began weekly walks to replenish. When public criticism continued, she documented incidents and requested HR mediation. Her energy returned not because the manager changed overnight, but because Sophia stopped feeding into the pattern. Case 2. Family gossip. Imani felt drained by relatives who turned her struggles into gossip. She practiced a micro-boundary script at gatherings. I am not discussing personal matters today. She also chose 2 cousins to be confidential witnesses. They checked in with her regularly. When the gossip persisted, she limited visits and set a schedule for phone calls. The boundary was painful, but over time, the gatherings became less volatile. Case 3. Church leader pressure. A beloved church leader frequently expected emotional labor from parishioners. Daniel, who was exhausted, asked for a meeting with a pastoral counselor and requested a mediator in subsequent conversations. He also set a time limit on pastoral interactions. I can meet for 30 minutes. If more help is needed, I will refer you to counseling resources. When the leader pushed back, Daniel escalated to a pastoral oversight body for support. Scripts for difficult conversations. Below are several extended scripts modeled for specific contexts. Use them as templates and adapt the tone to your personality. Script A. Setting a boundary with a family member. Thank you for caring. I know you want what's best for me. Right now, I'm not ready to discuss topic. When I talk about it, I need it to be in a way that's respectful and not judged. If you can't do that, I'll have to step away from these conversations. I love you, and I want our relationship to be healthy. Script B. Responding to emotional dumping from a friend. I care about you, and I want to support you, but I can't be the only person you rely on for everything. I can listen for 30 minutes a week and help you find resources. If you need more, I can help you find a counselor who can carry that alongside you. Script C. Addressing chronic criticism at work. I value constructive feedback, but when it becomes personal and public, it hinders my work. I'm asking that we move critique to our one-on-one meetings. If this pattern continues, I'll document the incidents and request HR involvement. Script D. Protecting yourself against gossip in community. I'm committed to our community, but I'm concerned about privacy. I'm asking that our conversations about personal matters stay private. If this continues, I'll have to speak with leadership about confidentiality. Script E. When a boundary is ignored. I shared earlier that I need space around this topic. You're continuing to press me, and that leaves me with no choice but to step back. I'm choosing not to respond until we can speak respectfully. If that's not possible, I'll involve a mediator. How to respond to inner pushback. Setting boundaries often triggers inner voices, guilt, fear, or worry. You are unloving. Name these feelings briefly. I notice guilt, or I'm afraid of losing this relationship. Then return to your values and the roadmap. Protect dignity, seek witness, rehearse micro-boundaries. A helpful phrase when guilt rises is, I can care and still protect my well-being. Replenishment exercises. You can do now. The 10-minute inventory. Each evening, write 3 things that drained you and 3 things that replenished you. Over time, patterns emerge. The prayer. Pause. When you feel the sting after a draining interaction, pause and say quietly, Emmanuel, remain with me. Breathe and let your shoulders drop. The margin experiment. For 1 week, say no to one request that would overextend you. Note how your energy shifts. Guided prayer and centering. If you are comfortable, pray this aloud or silently as a practice of presence. These words are offered as a pastoral resource, short, steady, and rooted in the angelic refrain. Father, you know the places in me that are worn and raw. In the moments when people leave me drained, remind me that I am seen. Give me the courage to name what I need and the wisdom to protect what sustains me. Grant me companions who will witness without fixing, and the patience to wait for steady change. Emmanuel, be with me in the hard choices. Do not let shame be the judge of my heart. Amen. After this prayer, consider the simple exercise of writing a letter to the person who drains you. Do not send it. Write it to empty the pressure valve. Begin. Dear Chi, when we talk, I feel. Pour out what you need to say. Then set the letter aside. Often, unburdening yourself on paper is the first boundary. Now, testimonies. Real feeling stories of people who practiced these steps and found new rhythms. These are not triumphalist narratives. They are honest accounts of slow change. Testimony 1. Leah, church volunteer. Leah loved serving in the church kitchen, but the lead volunteer constantly criticized her cooking and undermined her in front of others. Leah started using micro-boundaries. She limited conversations to planning only and asked a trusted friend to be present at meetings. She also began Sabbath pauses to rebuild energy. Over months, the criticism lessened. Leah learned to hold her place without absorbing the barbs. Testimony 2. Omar, sales manager. Omar's client demanded emotional availability beyond work hours. After documenting calls and discussing the issue with his supervisor, Omar set a boundary. No client calls after 7 p.m. He explained the boundary clearly and provided availability windows. A few clients pushed back, but most adjusted. Omar's sleep improved and he became more present at work. Testimony 3. Priya, daughter and caregiver. Priya's mother often dismissed her needs and guilted her into more caretaking. Priya practiced the Joseph strategy of quiet protection. She told her mother gently but firmly that she could attend every other weekend and invited a cousin to share responsibility. She also sought a counselor to process the layered grief. The relationship didn't become perfect, but Priya stopped being chronically exhausted. Testimony 4. Malik, young father. Malik felt used by a friend who only reached out when he needed favors. Malik tried a micro-boundary. I can help on Saturdays, but I'm not available on weeknights. His friend reacted angrily at first. Malik reached out to 2 other friends for support and kept his boundary for 6 weeks. The friend eventually apologized and began reciprocating. Testimony 5. Rosa, teacher. Rosa found herself the confidant of many students, which started to drain her. She worked with her principal to create a counseling referral list and used scripts. I'm not able to counsel you one-on-one. I can connect you with resources. That structural boundary protected her without abandoning students. Testimony 6. Daniel, small business owner. Daniel was publicly criticized by a partner and felt betrayed. He wrote a private letter, rehearsed a calm script with a mediator, and chose a temporary reduction of contact. He involved a business counselor, and, over months, they renegotiated roles. The partnership survived, but in a new shape that honored dignity. Testimony 7. Naomi, quiet activist. Naomi was often dismissed at community meetings. She began attending a small writers' group where her voice was affirmed. She also kept a daily log of achievements. Slowly, the acceptance she found in another place strengthened her posture in the community where she had been drained. These testimonies show variety. Sometimes boundaries lead to reconciliation. Sometimes boundaries lead to separation. Sometimes the work is simply to find restoration in other circles. None promise perfection, but all show that with prayerful practice, life can be steadied. Frequently asked questions. Is setting a boundary unloving? No. Boundaries can be an expression of love for yourself and love for others. They prevent you from becoming so depleted that you cannot care well. They also create conditions for honest relationship. What if the person is family and I feel guilty? Family obligations are real and complicated. Guilt often signals a deeper value, your desire to be loyal. Hold that value and pair it with the roadmap. Name the drain, use micro-boundaries, seek witness, and escalate when safety is at risk. Small adjustments, scheduled visits, clear topics for conversation can reduce drain without abandoning care. What if they ignore my boundary? Repetition is necessary. Calmly repeat the boundary. If ignored, escalate to a witness, mediator, or appropriate professional. Remember, disrespecting your boundary is not your fault. Will I lose my faith if I protect myself? Protecting yourself is part of stewardship. Faith is about honoring God's call to love, which includes caring for the life God has given you. Boundaries are not a lack of trust. They're a practice of wise love. How do I distinguish between being difficult and being protective? Ask a trusted witness to help you reflect. Protective boundaries aim to preserve dignity and mutuality. Being difficult tends to escalate and center your need to control. If you're unsure, seek counsel. When should I involve professional help? If you experience threats, violence, stalking, ongoing manipulation, persistent depression, or trauma reactions, seek professional help immediately. Mental health professionals, legal counsel, and trusted pastoral leaders. These situations exceed lay pastoral strategies and require trained intervention. Printable reflection guide content for personal or downloadable use. This section is designed as a worksheet you can transfer to paper or a document. Part A. Inventory. 1. Name one person who drains you. 2. List 3 behaviors they do that drain you. 3. How does your body respond after interacting with them? 4. What do you fear if you distance yourself? 5. What do you most hope for in that relationship? Part B. Micro-boundary templates. Choose and adapt. I can't engage on this topic right now. I'm available at these times list. I'm willing to help in these specific ways. List. Part C. Accountability plan. Who will you tell about this boundary? Who will hold you accountable weekly? What are 2 replenishing activities you will schedule each week? Part D. Escalation. Checklist. Document incidents. Yes, no. Mediator identified. Yes, no. Professional help sought. Yes, no. Legal risk present. Yes, no. If yes, contact authorities professionals immediately. Part E. Scripture and prayer. Memorize 1 verse for 30 days. Emmanuel, God with us, or do not be afraid. D. Short prayer to use in the morning and before difficult interactions. Resource list. Non-exhaustive. Local pastoral counselor or church support groups. Licensed mental health professionals experienced with relational trauma. Legal aid societies for protection orders and safety planning. Hotlines for immediate danger. Local numbers vary by country. Use local emergency services. Books on boundaries and Christian spirituality. Authors like Henry Nouwen, John Eldridge, or others who balance spiritual depth and psychological wisdom. Consult your pastor for specific recommendations. As we draw near the close, return to the small, holy theme that runs through the Nativity, God with us. Emmanuel is not an abstract idea. It is a presence you can practice leaning into as you take concrete steps toward rest. The presence of God does not remove the need for boundaries. It empowers them. It does not mean relationships will instantly be healed, but it assures you that the work is done with a companion close at hand. One final gentle exercise to anchor this work. Take the name you wrote at the beginning and fold it into these steps. Name, protect, witness, replenish, escalate. For each step, write 1 sentence describing what you will do in the next week. Keep this note somewhere private and review it daily. Change it as you need to. The point is not perfection, but small, steady motion. If you'd like a deeper companion to walk with you, there is a reflection guide available that contains the worksheets, scripts, and a curated resource list for seeking help. If you feel called, you can download that guide to use privately or to bring to a trusted friend or pastor when you seek counsel. Finally, a benediction to send you out with steadiness and hope. May Emmanuel, the God who walked through dust and fear and quiet nights, be with you in the places that tire you. May you find courage to name what drains you, tenderness to protect your heart, and companions who witness without fixing. May, do not be afraid, settle like a lamp in your chest, giving you permission to rest and to act from a calm center. If danger presses in, seek help without delay. True faith seeks safety for the vulnerable. Go forward with the hope that care and boundary can be companions, and that your life matters beyond what anyone else says. Amen.